Hi guys, how are you doing? So we're here finally at the first day of our Devnest front-end bootcamp. I hope you guys are able to hear me loud and clear. If you're able to hear me loud and clear, give me a thumbs up. All right, that's fantastic. So, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Gaurav, and I'll be your instructor for the front end bootcamp for the upcoming 3 months. And together we will be learning about web development. And we have an exciting course for you guys. We will be starting from the scratch, the absolute basics, and then we will be climbing up the ladder, and you will be turning from a beginner developer to a experienced developer who is able to do web development with ease. So that is the idea. And now let's get started with the boot camp. We'll just wait a little bit, about a minute, before we get started, and then we will begin our boot camp. Yeah, this so all the sessions will be recorded and they will be available for future reference. And the information regarding any extra information regarding the bootcamp will be available in the Devsnest Discord community. If there are any changes or anything if there's any information regarding the bootcamp, it will be communicated to you in the Discord channel. All right, so I think we are good to go, and today we'll be starting with the first day. So I wanted to give you guys an introduction about web development in general. So let's get started with that. So overall, it consists of our front end, right? So that is the user facing part of the application. Okay. It is also known as the client because that is where we see our website and you see the website in the browser. Okay. So that is the part where the user interacts. All right. So that is known as the front end. For example, if the front end requires any data, it can request that data from the server. All right. So for example, if we consider the scenario of Amazon, right? And you want to see the list of products, and we see the products in our app, right? So our client or the front end will request for the list of products from the server, and those products might be stored in a database. So the server might in turn talk to the database, and when the database sends the response back to the server, it might process that data according to the needs of the front end and send a response back to the client. Okay, and that is a general cycle of how things happen. So this part collectively, this is known as the backend, the server part and the database. But for the coming 3 months, we will be focusing on just the front end part. All right. And each of these individually have some technologies related to them, right? So for the front end, we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as the core technologies. And for the backend, we might consider Node.js or ASP.NET, Java, or Rails. So these are all the technologies which are available at the server side, and at the database level you might use SQL Server, which is by Microsoft, or MySQL or MongoDB. So these are just examples of technologies which we use across web development. Like, these are some of the technologies that we use, but not all of them. Okay. And so that is what I wanted you guys to know about web development in general. And now let's begin with front end, right? So we look at the core three technologies which we will be working with in the coming 3 months. So at the base level, we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. And so we will first look at HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So it allows us to define the structure of our document, okay, our web page, right? So it allows us to define the structure of the document using markup. So markup are basically elements or tags which convey a special meaning to the browser, and based on the tag which is used, the browser shows that information in a different way upon the tag, depending upon the tag that we are using. Then we have CSS, right, which allows us to style a website. It allows us to change the spacing, modify the colors. It allows us to determine how to place the elements within the layout of our web page. And then finally, we have JavaScript, which allows us to add interactivity, and it allows us to respond to user events, such as, suppose you click on a button, it might show you an alert on that page, right? It might open a new dialog. It might take you to another page. So JavaScript allows us to add that interactivity within our website. Okay. And for today's lesson, we will be beginning with HTML, the basics of HTML. So we should get started with that. All right. So what we will do is, first of all, we will be using a code editor. So the code editor that we will be using is VS Code. Okay. And this is the link for that, and you can download the particular version of VS Code depending on your operating system. So the advantage of using a code editor is that it allows us to have access to certain features such as auto code completion, and there are different features which speed up our development. So that is why we would be using this code editor. There are others available as well, but this is the one which we will be focusing on throughout the course. And the next thing that we will need for today's session is a browser. So we are using Chrome. Okay. And this is what we will be using throughout the Bootcamp. So you can download the latest version of Chrome. Yeah, these are the toolings that we will be needing throughout the Bootcamp. Like, these are the basic tools that we will need. All right. Next, what we will do is we will create our very first HTML document. So let's do that now. So I'm just opening my terminal, and I'm inside the Devsnest folder. You can create any folder you like. And yeah, another thing is for today's session or even the sessions in the future, I would request you guys to first try and understand the concept that I am teaching you. So view the content, and then later on you can watch the re-recording and try it on your own. Because if you try to code along with me, there might be some issues at your end, and you might lose focus or lose track of these sessions. So that is why I request you guys to watch the session first, try to understand all the concepts, and then later on you can try and implement it on your own. All right. So the first thing that I will be doing is I'll be creating a folder. Let's call it as day one, and I'll just switch to that folder day one, and within that let me create a index.html file. Okay, and now I will just open this folder within my VS Code. So you can see that we have VS Code available over here, and let me just split the screen in half. All right, so now we will be looking at how we can define a HTML document. So in VS Code, if you just press the exclamation mark and you hit tab, it basically does this autocomplete for us. So it adds the basic tags which are needed to describe a HTML document. Okay, so the the first tag that we see over here is let me zoom this a bit for you guys. The first tag that we see over here is the doc type tag. Okay, so all the HTML documents should start with this doc type and HTML. This basically tells the browser what type of document this is. So this is the syntax for doing this in HTML5. So in our case, this is basically telling us that we are creating a HTML5 document. Okay, and the next tag that we will be focusing on is the HTML tag. Okay, so let me just collapse all of the other tags. So this is the HTML tag. This tells the browser that this tag basically indicates the beginning of an HTML document. It is also known as the root tag or the container tag, because all of the other HTML elements reside inside this particular tag. All right, it also has this lang attribute, and this basically specifies the language that this document will use. Okay, so over here we're specifying en for English. This is super helpful for the search engines. So for example, when you're searching for websites and you're looking for websites which are in English, so this will help the search engine to show the results of all the websites which are in English. All right, and then moving on to the next tag, which is the head tag, right? So this basically contains information about about this website in general. Okay, it contains information which is useful for the browser, and it tells us certain things about this particular document, but that information which we add over here is not relevant so much for the user or the viewer of the website. All right, so one of the main tags that we add over here is the title, which basically is the text that you see on the tab, right? So that is once again something which tells us informs us about the website, but it's not something that is very user centric. So that is what is shown over here. Let me just save this, and what we will do is we will open this website in our browser now. So I'll say open index.html. So you can see that it has opened this, and if I try to modify the title over here, so let's just call it as front end day one. All right, let me save this, and if I do a refresh now, you can see over here that the title of the document has been changed from document to front end day one. All right, so this is telling the browser that this is the title for the document. The other information that it has is these meta tags, right? So this meta tag is about the character set that will be used for this document. So this gives us, so we're using the value UTF-8. So UTF-8 has a large number of characters available in it, and it supports various characters across different languages. So for example, I want to show a special character such as this, right? So this is also supported when we are using UTF-8. So you can see I just refreshed the page, and this character is basically visible to us, right? And the all the other characters are also available to us in general. So that is why we're using the UTF-8 character set, as it has a wide support for different characters across many languages. All right, so let me just get rid of this. Then this next tag, this was more relevant to Internet Explorer, but as we all know, Internet Explorer retired recently, so it's not that relevant anymore. So even if we remove that, it wouldn't make much of a difference, right? And the next tag is the it tells us something about the viewport and the content which is to be shown inside the viewport. So this basically tells the browser that it should scale the content uh, according to the viewport in which we are viewing the content. Now, if you're wondering what is viewport, so the visible area, right? The visible area that the user sees, the entire visible area, okay, which is this in our case. Um, so if you see, like, this is the entire visible area for this website, right? So this is the viewport for us, okay? And so this basically, this meta tag basically tells that the content should be shown depending on the viewport in which it is being rendered. Okay, I'll get back to this point in just a minute. And the next tag that we have is the body tag. So as I already showed you, whatever we are typing over here, it will be shown inside the viewport. Okay, this contains, basically this tag contains all the uh, information that is visible to the user. So you can add text over here, you can have multiple tags over here, and so basically all the information that is relevant to the user, which the user needs to see, that is what we will be adding inside the body section of our HTML document. And you can see that all of these tags have an opening tag and a closing tag. Similarly, the head also has a opening tag and a closing tag. So basically, what this indicates is the opening tag indicates the beginning of this tag, and you can add multiple tags inside it. And then the closing tag basically indicates the end of this tag for the browser. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, HTML allows us to structure our document using markup. So all of this is basically markup. And this doc type, this isn't a tag. This is just a declaration which is mandatory and which tells the browser that we'll be using HTML5 for our document. Okay. I hope uh, that this is clear to you guys. Like whatever I have explained so far, it is clear. Okay, I'm just going through the chat right now. Most of you are saying that it is clear. All right. So as I told you guys about this viewport, what is the importance of this, right? So what we will do is we will be opening the developer tools. Okay. To open the developer tools, you can click on this context menu. You can select more tools and see developer tools. All right. So on my machine, there's a different shortcut for this. On your machine, it might be something else. So in the future, you can make use of the shortcut to open the developer tools. All right. So we, as you can see over here, this is the developer tools. It has opened. Another shortcut for this is the function and the F12 key. So you can use that to toggle it open. I mean, you can use it to, basically toggle open and close this developer tools. This is something which is very handy, and it is a great help to any web developer. So there are various tabs over here. The one that we will be focusing on right now is the elements tab, and here we have the same structure. Let me zoom this slightly for you guys. Okay, so here we have the same structure that we have defined over here. You can see this HTML tag, there's a head tag, and there's a body tag, and the closing HTML tag. All right. So this representation that you're seeing right now is known as the document object model. All right. And using the developer tools, basically what we can do is we can inspect all of the elements which are there, which are within our website. All right. So if you notice, if I hover over this body tag, it is highlighting the content which is inside the body tag. You can see that, right? And the other thing is, I wanted to show you guys about the viewport. So if we select this icon, it allows us to basically choose different um, devices, okay, within our browser. So let me click on this now. Okay, and let me select, for example, yeah, let's just keep this iPhone SE, for example. So this is how this text will be appearing on the iPhone SE device, right? Now, if I get rid of this meta tag, and I will do so by commenting this line, okay? And if I refresh this, what this is doing is that it is trying to show this view uh, in the same viewport as that of a desktop website. Okay, so if you notice over here, give me a second. Yeah, so if you know, let me just refresh this, and let me zoom this. Okay, give me a second. Let's go back to the regular view. Let me refresh this. Let's open this. So you can see that this text appears to be pretty, it's pretty small right now, and it's not scaling to the appropriate viewport size. If we remove this meta tag, so if I add this once again, okay, let me uncomment this. And if I do a refresh now, you can see that this text is now appearing properly. You're able to read it more easily, right? So this is the importance of this viewport tag and content width equal to device width. So this tells the browser that it needs to scale the content on a website based on the viewport. I hope what a viewport is now clear to you guys. Okay, so your mobile device, it has a different screen size. So whatever is the visible area, that is the viewport, and it is the viewport for a mobile device. If we open the same website in a on a desktop or on a PC, the viewport size will be different. All right. So as I told you, this entire section has information which is more relevant to the document in general, and this part has all the information which is visible to the user. So I hope this part is clear to you guys. Okay. Let me just close the let me get rid of this now. I'll just uncheck this. So we're back to our regular view, and let me close the developer tools. The next thing that we will be looking at now is the anatomy of an HTML element, right? So as you can see, suppose we have a tag over here, which is the h1 tag. So we specify the opening part. Whatever comes inside in between the opening tag and the closing tag. So you specify the closing tag with this forward slash. Okay. So we are making use of the h1 tag and we are closing it with forward slash h1, and whatever you type in between, that is known as the content. Okay, and this thing in entirety, that is known as an element. Okay, so if I'm just trying to clear the terminology over here. So whenever we are saying an HTML element, this is what it means. We're talking about this in this thing about this in entirety. And whenever I'm talking about the content inside an element, so this is what it means. This is the content part. Okay. Either we can have textual content over here, or we can have more tags in here. Okay. All right, so that this is basically the anatomy of an element. And what we will do is we will now um, look at a couple of HTML tags and understand what they do. Okay. All right, so as you can see, whatever text I am typing over here, uh, it basically gets shown over here. But what if I want this text to appear in a certain way? All right. Suppose I want this, I want to add a heading, right? So the way I would do that is I would make use of the heading tags. All right. So the heading element. So there are different types of heading tags. The first one is the h1 tag. All right. And let me type something over here. This is the first day, for example. And let me save this. And if I do a refresh now, you can see it has added this information. This is the first day. Okay. And you can see that this text is in bold, right? And it's much larger compared to this piece of text. So basically this tag is telling the browser whatever is the content inside it, it needs to be shown at a certain size, and it needs to be bold. Okay, so this is the one of the basic tags, right? Just like this tag, there are other tags as well, such as the h2, which is a bit smaller than this. So this is slightly smaller than the h1. Okay, if I save this, let's do a refresh. You can see that this is also bold, but it is slightly smaller than the h1 tag. Okay, or rather, let me just say h2 is slightly smaller than the h1. Okay, and we have similarly we go all the way down to h6. All right, this would be the smallest. This h6 is the smallest among all of these tags. All right, and if I do a refresh now, you can see this is much smaller in comparison to the first one. And similarly, if we add a h4 tag, and h4 is somewhere in the middle. All right, and if I do a refresh now, you can see that all of these tags are conveying something different. They're telling the browser how to format this particular text within our document. So these are the heading tags, and to basically let me add a comment over here. These are all the tags which allow us to add a heading, right? And let me save this. So this information is something which I just want you guys to see, right? It should not be visible on the page. So what I can do is I can comment this. All right, so in order to comment something inside HTML, you can make use of this angle bracket, exclamation mark, and two dashes or two hyphens, and you add your comment over here and close it with this hyphens and the the greater than sign. Okay, and now if I do a refresh, okay, give me a sec. Now if I do a refresh, you can see that in this information, which is something which I just wanted here for reference and not to be actually visible on the screen, it's no longer there. Okay, so whenever the browser comes across this comment tag, it understands that it needs to ignore this. Whatever is in between these things, it needs to ignore that. So it will not render that or show that on the UI. Okay. All right. There's a question that can we make a HTML page without any tags? So if we get rid of, for example, let me show you something. Suppose I add this h1 tag over here. Okay. Let me save this. Let me comment this one. Okay. Let's do a refresh. We can still see the text. This is day one. Although this is inside the head portion, right? Ideally, this should not have been visible. But if we inspect this element, right, you can see that the browser is smart enough to understand that this is not the correct place for this tag, right? So it basically moves this tag from h1, and it is actually while rendering this page or this website, it has actually moved this inside the body. So this is another reason why we specify this doc type, because it helps the browser understand what type of document this is, and then the browser is smart enough to figure out where what thing needs to go. So if it sees a h1 tag over here, it is automatically placing it inside the body tag. Okay. um, and similarly, if you leave out these tags, right? So for example, let me leave out the body tag. Okay, let's save this, and instead let's add some text directly over here. This is direct text. Let's save this. Let's do a refresh. You can still see that this text was added, and the browser automatically created a body tag. That's because of the way the browser works. So it's smart enough to understand that even though you're not using that particular tag, it's still adding that for you. It will not do that for everything else, but like the basic structure of an HTML, it consists of a head tag, it consists of a body tag. So it's smart enough to figure out that this needs to go inside the body tag, so it will automatically add one. All right. But it's not smart enough to guess what you need to add inside the body tag, right? So it will not be smart enough to understand that if you want to show a heading, you need to make use of the h1 tag. If you do not add the h1 tag, it will not add that automatically. But for like the basic structure which I explained you in the beginning, it will take care of those things automatically. Okay. I hope that it clears your, I hope the doubt is clear now. All right. um, the next thing that we will be learning about is so whenever we're writing in general, like on paper or on like word or anything, we make use of paragraphs, right? So even in HTML, there is a special tag known as the paragraph tag, the p tag, which allows us to define paragraphs. Okay. And you can see that our comment has been broken because I had removed the uh, opening comment tag, right? So let me add that once again, and let me save this. If I do a refresh, we are back to where we had left off. And suppose I want to show this part inside a paragraph. So what I will do is I will add a p tag like this, and I'll just move this text inside our p tag. So this p tag basically tells the browser like whatever is coming in between, it needs to be shown as a paragraph. So I can have a large amount of information over here, and if we do a refresh, it is basically showing that. Okay. And we can have multiple of these paragraphs. So for example, this is the second paragraph, and similarly we can add over here, this is the third paragraph. Okay, let me do a refresh, and we can see that as we have added all of these over here, and even if I move this in the next line and if I do a refresh, it will still show that in the same line. The reason is that we are, HTML, in HTML, spaces and new lines are generally ignored. So we make use of tags to inform the browser that if it needs to move something in the next line, we need to use the appropriate tag, or the appropriate styling information needs to be informed to the browser. Only in that case it will show that information in the next line. Okay. Another key thing that we need to understand is a paragraph, an element can have attributes. Okay, these attributes contain information which are not directly shown within the content, but it allows us to set certain properties for an element which change the way that element behaves within the browser. So for example, within this p tag, if we add a title attribute, okay, so whatever we define like this, so different tags have different attributes. So for example, this p tag has this title attribute, and this allows us to show a tooltip. So whatever text that we are typing within double quotes, or like after this equal to sign, whatever text we are typing, that value will be assigned to this attribute. All right, so this is the tool tip. For example, this is the text that I want the user to see. Okay, and now so we are inside. So we added this attribute for this first paragraph, right? Now if I do a refresh, and if I hover over this, okay, we see this tooltip. Okay, right? Let me zoom a bit for you guys. So this is the tooltip. Because we added this title attribute and we're hovering over this, this is telling the browser that now it needs to show this tooltip. All right. The other two paragraphs do not have this attribute set to them. So when I move my mouse cursor over it, it's not doing anything, right? So what we learned right now is that we can make use of attributes to show additional information or make changes to the existing behavior of an element. All right. And so today is the first day, and we are going in a, what do you say, in a very easy manner, in a slow fashioned way. And we are considering the fact that there are a lot of people who don't know anything about web development in general. All right, so that is why I'm going at a slow and steady pace. But be assured, like throughout the duration of 3 months, we will be building a variety of different small projects or large projects, and you will be learning a lot of different things. So first we will be building our fundamentals. We'll be focusing on HTML, a little bit of CSS, and then we'll start with a little bit of JavaScript as well. And that we will be doing because we want you to be introduced to the core principles as soon as possible, and then slowly and gradually through mini projects or apps, we will be moving to more advanced topics within these three core technologies. And later on we will be moving on to React and the associated tooling, and the what do you say, and the related technologies or the supported technologies that work well with React. All right, so by the end of the course you will be able to build a complete end-to-end front end part of the website on your own. That is the idea. So there were a couple of questions in the chat with regards to this. I hope your questions have been answered. All right. And so basically whatever text you add over here, it will be shown whenever we hover over our paragraph like this. Okay. Let me close this. All right, now suppose we want to show some lists. All right, you want to show some items which have numbering associated with them. So instead of typing 1, this is the first item. Okay, like this. The way you would tell the way you would do this in HTML is by making use of the ordered list tag. Okay, OL for ordered list. And when you want to add items, so what we will do is, let's just add a heading before this. This is related to the list. This section is related to the list. Okay, and whenever I want to show an item inside this list, I will make use of the li tag, which is short for list item. Okay, and whatever content that I specify over here, it will show that. So this is the first item, for example. Okay, now if I do a refresh, we can see that this heading is visible to us, and then we are able to see this first item. Okay, similarly, let me add another li over here, and let me just change this to second. Okay, so another item has been added like this. The reason why we are calling this as an ordered list, because it's following this numbering. We are not specifying any numbering, but it's automatically adding it. All right. Similarly, if I want to add another item, I can do so like this. And let me just say this is the third item. If I do another refresh, you can see that we have added a third item to our page, right? So this is how you can define an ordered list. Similarly, we have something known as the unordered list, which doesn't have any numbering, right? So let's look at unordered list. So the way you define an unordered list is you make use of the UL tag for unordered list, and just like the ordered list, you can make use of the li tag and you can add items inside it. So suppose I want to show this is an unordered list of fruits. Okay, so I add some fruits over here, for example, apple. And the next item is orange. And I want to show another fruit, for example, kiwi, right? And if I save this, you can see that this is an unordered list of fruits, and we see these bulleted, bullet points beside all of these items within the list. So this is how you can either define an ordered list or an unordered list, and I hope the difference between the two is clear to you. Yeah, so there's a quick question. Is it possible to make a list within a list? Yeah, so the answer is correct. You can definitely have a list within a list, right? Okay. So far what we have seen is we can define a tag and we can add content inside it. And we can also have tags which can have more tags inside them. So this is known as nesting, right? Other examples of nesting include, so for example, what I want to do is I want to add a paragraph over here. So I want to show hello world, for example. Okay, let's refresh this and we can see this text hello world. But what I want is I want this world to appear in italics. Okay, so there is a tag in HTML for this as well. So it's known as the em or the emphasize tag. And if I cut this and paste this here and let's save this, let's do a refresh, you can see that this text is now being shown in italics. So this is how you can nest another tag within an already existing tag. So nesting of tags is also possible. Similarly, if I want this hello to be shown in bold, I can make use of the strong tag. All right, so whatever text that appears in between the strong tag, it will be shown in bold. So you can see hello appears in bold and world appears in italics. So we can nest multiple elements within a parent element, right? So let me format this document slightly. Okay, and there are other tags as well which convey more specific meaning, but I hope you got the gist that how we can do nesting, right? This is also known as nesting, and even this is known as nesting, right? So within the body tag we have added all of these multiple tags, and you can have a n number of hierarchy. You can nest for what I mean is that, so for example, you have a paragraph, and within that paragraph you can have an unordered list, right, which can have a list item. So this is an item. All right, and then within this I can have another item. So this is another item. Let's save this. So you can have as deep a hierarchy as possible, right? So you can see that we have this paragraph, and within this we have a unordered list, and within that we have another item, right? So you can have any number of hierarchy within this. This can go as deep as possible. All right, I mean as deep as you desire basically, or as deep as the need for this document or the website. Okay, so let me get rid of this. All right, the next tag that we will be looking at is the anchor tag. Okay, so for that we say a. Let me close this and let me add some content over here. This is the link to Google, right? If I do a refresh, I can see that it just says this is the link to Google. But we now need to actually add a link to Google. So the way we do this is that we make use of the href attribute. And within this, we specify a URL. Okay, so suppose I want to go to Google, what I will say is https://google.com. Okay, now if I do a refresh, just because we added this attribute, now the browser is showing this as a link, right? The behavior has completely changed. Earlier, it was just being shown as a regular text, but now it's being shown like this. So what we need to remember is this text is not directly shown to the user, right? Instead, whatever we specify in between the anchor tag, that is the text which is shown to the user on the screen. And this acts like a link for the user, right? So you can have this text, or you can have, for example, click here. We can have this text as well. And if I do a refresh, you can now see that the text has changed to click here because we modified it over here. And now when I actually click on this, it has redirected me to google.com, right? Suppose I don't want that. What I want is it should open this link in a new tag. So what I will do is make use of another attribute known as target. And here I will specify underscore blank, right? So this is another advantage of using VS Code. Whenever we type an attribute, it gives us this autocomplete suggestion. So this is another reason why we're making use of a code editor such as VS Code, because of the code hints which it gives us. So we don't have to remember everything. We just remember like certain keywords, and it will prompt us the appropriate values at times. Okay. Now I have added this attribute target with the value blank. Now if I click on this, okay, I forgot to do a refresh, right? Because I saved this, but I did not do a refresh. Now let's do a refresh. And now if I click on this, you can see that it has opened google.com in a new tab. All right. So with this, we have understood that you can have multiple attributes uh, on an HTML element, right? And each attribute adds additional behavior to that particular element, or it conveys a different meaning, or it tells a different message to the browser that this is the additional thing that needs to happen. Okay. All right. So this is how we can add an external link. But what if I want to redirect to a page? Suppose I want to create a link to another page which we are going to create. Okay. So let's see how we can do that. So let me open the file explorer in VS Code. Let me click on this, which will allow me to add a new file. So let me just call this as second page.html, and we'll add the doc type over here, and let me call this as the second screen, and we will add a h1 tag over here, and this will just say this is the second screen, right? And suppose now instead of going to google.com, I want to go to the second screen, right? So I will just say link to second screen, and here what I will say is I will just give the name of the file that I want to visit. So it's second page.html. Okay, let me save this. Let's do a refresh. Let's click on link to second screen. So when I click on link to second screen, you can see that it has opened this in a new tab, right? But I don't want this link to open in a new tab. I wanted to open at the place of the first page itself. So I'll get rid of this. Let's save it. Let's do a refresh. Let's close this. Let's do a refresh over here. Now when I click on this, it is taking me to the second screen within the same page. Now, for example, from the second screen, I want to go back to the first screen, but without making use of the back button. Any guesses of how we can do this? You guys can reply in the chat. So basically, you guys are trying. What we will do is we'll go to our second page and we will add a anchor tag over here. we will say index.html because that is the name of our first page, and back to first page. Okay, let's do a refresh. We can see that this link has appeared over here. When I click on this, it takes me back to the first page. So you might have seen menus in the header of many websites. So this is what is the tag which is powering that particular behavior. So when you click on a heading, it takes you to another page, right? Behind the scenes, this is the tag which is being used, right? So using this tag, we can easily navigate between different pages. So you can have multiple pages, and you can either redirect to uh, a source, whatever value you're specifying over here. It can be an actual, it can either be a website or the path to a file. It will redirect to that particular path. Okay. So let's go back over here to the first screen. And here also we will switch to our index page. Now the next tag that we are going to look for, that we are going to learn today, is the image tag. Suppose I want to add an image. So for that I make use of this img tag. All right. Now by default you can see there are two attributes over here, source and alt for alternate text, right? So if the tags that we have seen so far, they have some or the other content inside them, right? So it is also possible for a tag to have no content. An image tag is one such tag which does not have any content inside it. All right. But we still need to show the image, right? So we will do so using the src attribute or the source attribute. All right, so let's do one thing. Let's search for an image really quick. So today, since we are learning about html, let's search for html. Let's go under images. I'll select this one. Let me right click on this and copy image address. I have copied this image address. Let me paste it over here. So you can see we have added a link which is coming from Wikipedia, and it has the name of the image basically over here. And I'll come back to this attribute in just a second. Let's save this. Now if I do a page refresh, you can see that this image has been added, but it's of a dimension that we do not want. It is basically taking up quite a lot of space. So let's do one thing. Let's make use of another attribute within the image tag which allows us to change this behavior. So what we will do is we'll give it a width of say 200 pixels, and let's also give it a height of 200 pixels. Let me do a refresh, and now you can see that this image has been added to our page, and now it's easily visible to us, right? Okay, so this is how you can define the height and width for an image so that it's visible to us. Now coming back to this the other attribute known as the alt. So suppose I specify some, I make some modifications. Okay, I type some garbage text over here. Let me save this and let's do a refresh. Now you can, okay, this shouldn't have worked. Give me a sec. Okay, so now what I have done is I removed some part of the path for that image. Okay, so it's no longer a valid path. So you can see that this image has now been broken. It's taking up this much space because we have given this image tag a height and a width of 200 by 200. Suppose I change this to 100 by 100. It will still take up that much space of 100 by 100, right? But this the path is incorrect, and that is why we're not able to see the image. In such cases, the alt attribute allows us to provide some text, and the user will see that text instead of the broken image. Okay, so it just you provide some descriptive information about this image over here. So this image for HTML5. Okay, and now if I do a refresh, you can see that instead of showing me the broken image, it is showing me the text which I have specified under the alt attribute. All right, so if the image path is incorrect, we can make use of this tag, this attribute to provide some information to the user. This is especially helpful uh, even in cases where there are people who are not able to see or blind, and they are blind, right? So they make use of assistive technologies such as a screen reader. So the screen reader scans through the tags of our website, and suppose it comes across the image tag and it sees this alt attribute, it will read that out loud for the blind person. Okay, so that is why such attributes are useful. Let me fix this back for us. Okay, I have undone the code changes that I had made, and once again we can see this HTML5 image, right? Okay, so far so good. Is whatever has been taught so far, is it clear to you guys? Please let me know in the chat. So someone asked me, is it possible to add another image? So basically all these attributes such as href or src, you can either provide a external link such as https, whatever the name of the website, or you can use it from within the folder or any other location on your computer or on your computer's disk, right? You just need to give the correct path for that resource. So suppose we want to show the image, right, for css. What I will do is I will save this image, and what I'll do is save this within the day one folder which we had created today, and let me save it. So you can see this download.png, which is this css image. It has been downloaded and saved within this folder or directory. Suppose I want to show this, what I will do is let me extend the screen once again, and I will add another image tag and give the source as, what did we call it, download.png, right? So I will give the name download dot, hang on, download.png. I accidentally renamed it. Let me copy this name and let's paste it here along with the extension image for css3. All right, let me save this. Let's do a refresh, and you can see that this css image has been added. So it's using the default size for this. Suppose I give it a height of 100 pixels and a width of 50 pixels, right? And if we do let's do a refresh. So you can see it has reduced the size for that image. Okay, and it's visible to us right now. Suppose I create a new folder over here. Let's call it as assets. And I move this image within the assets folder. Now, if I do a refresh, since the path of the image has changed, I am seeing the alt text. So if I need to fix that, what I will say is, so wherever this file is at, um, and we specify the location where this asset is available. I mean, where this asset is relatively available. So we specify the relative path, right? So if I want to access this from here, if I want to access this folder, I need to go, I need to stay at the same level, right? So what I will say is I'll say dot slash assets, and within that I may need to make use of download.png. Okay, and now if I do a refresh once again, the image is back. Suppose I have another folder over here, images, right? And if I move this here, once again the link will break if I do a refresh. So I need to provide the correct path. So I need to go inside assets, and then inside assets I need to select images, and then the name of the file is download.png. If I do a refresh now, you can once again see the image. So it's not just you can add external resources. So I call this as an external resource because it is not directly available within the website, right? It's not directly available over here. So that is why this is known as an external resource. Okay, and this is an internal resource as it is available within the structure of our website. So I hope that is clear to you guys as well. Okay, so what we have learned so far is we can also have tags which do not have directly a content within them. And another special thing that you notice about the image tag is that it does not have this closing img tag, right? Because it is self closing. Okay, since there is no content in between, it does not need the end tag, right? So it is self closing, and the way we show content using the image tag is we make use of the src attribute. So it's not necessary that every time that you show a content, it needs to come in between the closing and the opening tag. You can also make use of attributes, and certain tags work like that. One of them is the image tag, right? And like the anchor tag is a mix of both. So you define an attribute to tell where you want to go, and you make use of this place. The content tells some description about this link, right? So this is a mix of both, and we saw the other tags where we actually need to explicitly add the content within the opening and the closing tags. All right. Let's look at a couple of small tags. Suppose I want to add some divisions. All right. So what I can do is I want to divide this page in sections, and I want to make that distinguishment using a line, right? So I can make use of the hr tag or the horizontal rule. Okay. Suppose this is where I want to add. So I just make use of the hr tag. Once again, it does not have any content. If I do a refresh, you can see it has added a line over here, right? Similarly, I want to add a horizontal line where I began with the list. So I added a HR tag over here. So now it is showing this right after this h2 tag, which tells us this is the section related to the list. If I want, I can move this up by one, and now this entire portion is related to the list, right? And we are able to add this division. Okay. What we can do is we'll just take a short 5-minute break. You can use that to ask more of your questions, and I'll just sip some water in between, and then I will answer your questions, and then we will end today's session with a little bit of homework for you guys. Okay. So somebody has asked in the chat, um, what is the flow of the front end course. So like I mentioned earlier, that we will be focusing on the fundamentals, right? So HTML is what we will be starting with. Tomorrow we'll introduce a little bit of styling and how you can add CSS, and then very soon we'll move on to JavaScript. Okay. We'll just learn enough to get you started with all of these three, and this will allow you to use all of these three core technologies from the beginning, and then step by step, as and where needed, we'll dive into more complex topics with regards to these technologies, right? We'll be doing mini projects to learn all of these technologies in depth, and somewhere like maybe in a couple of in a month's time we'll move on to React. We learn the basics of React, uh, build some small projects, and understand the functionality surrounding React, and then we'll be moving on to building large projects, such as your you can we will be building a e-commerce website, so which will be making use of external APIs to fetch the data. You will be able to sort the products, filter the products, and all of that information can be those are the sort of projects that we will be building, considering real world scenarios. So we'll be doing 2 to 3 real world projects, and if time permits, maybe even more. All right. And we'll also be learning about TypeScript, building React projects, making use of TypeScript, and we'll also be learning advanced CSS topics as well, such as Flexbox and Grid, how you can add animations, transitions, different tags, how to create a proper layout for your website. All of those things will be covered throughout the duration of this boot camp. Okay, so I hope those who had questions with regards to this, they have got an answer. Yeah, someone asked if we are going to cover Tailwind. Yes, we will be covering Tailwind as well. Um, we'll try to cover a lot of the current technologies which are new but are relevant, provided time permits us to do that. But Tailwind is definitely something which we will be focusing on towards the later part of this course. And as we progress earlier, like, I'll be giving you a homework today, and we'll be building that throughout the duration of the course. Okay, so and all right, I think we can get back to our session now. uh, Let me see a couple of questions which are related to the which have come up in the chat. So are we going to be learning DSA? No, because DSA was already been covered. If you want, you can view the recordings of the earlier session. This duration of the 3 months is completely going to focus on the front end part of web development. Okay, and yeah, more information about the homework will be available in the Discord group, right? Right after the session is over, we will be meeting in Discord, Mahasabha VC, where you can ask me more of your questions, maybe some questions which I was not able to cover in the live stream right now. So, just shortly after this live stream is over, I'll see you guys in Discord, and I'll try to answer your queries over there as well. Okay. All right. I think somebody has asked me, will we will be covering full stack? I think I answered that. Just the front end part. There will be a separate part of the bootcamp which will focus on the back end, and it will cover MongoDB as per my knowledge. Okay. And yeah, I mean, more information regarding this session will be available in Discord to you, like the code for the link for VS Code, and even the resources regarding the basics of HTML that will be made available to you uh, in the Discord server. And you can also see the description of this video. It has some basic information with regards to this course. You can see that in the description. All right. Okay. So I think we have covered quite a lot of basics today. With this information, you should be able to define a HTML document, add some text, do some sort of formatting. You can add different headings. You can add this horizontal line. You can create a paragraph. You can create an ordered list. You should be able to create an unordered list. You should be able to add an image, and you should be able to add links, right? So this is what we have covered today. Now let's move on to the exciting part, which is the homework. So let's let me tell you about the homework for the day. So what we want to do is, using whatever tags that we learned in today's session, we want to create a HTML document, right? This document should have your image. Okay, so you add your image, then it should have certain headings. All right, and within the headings you add paragraphs. Okay, I do not know how to spell a paragraph, so I'll just put a p tag. Okay, and within the paragraphs what you can do is you can so basically you can add some headings and you can add information about yourself. You can have a section for about me, you can have a heading for that, and you add some content which tells us something about you. Okay, and after that what we can do is we can add either an ordered list, and you specify maybe your qualification over here. All right, you can add a list of your qualifications over here, and similarly you can add an unordered list, and you can basically display your hobbies here. All right, so this is one section, this is another part. um, let's add another part, this is for that. And you can also add, if you know if you know any technologies, you can add your list of technologies over here as well. Okay, so we will have another heading, technologies for example, and you can add your list of technologies here. Then the other thing that we want to add is we want to make use of the anchor tag, and we want to add some links. So you guys have social media profiles, right? So you can add that information any way you like. So you can add a couple of links to your social media profiles. Okay, so whether it is LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, you can add those profile links which are relevant, and you can post those over here. So what we are trying to build over here is your profile or your portfolio. It has your image, it has some information about you, maybe information about your qualifications, about your hobbies, about the technologies that you know. If you don't know, you can skip that part, and your social media profiles. Okay, tomorrow we will be working on this. I will be showing we will style this further depending on what we learn in tomorrow's session. And throughout this application, we will be using this as the starting point for building your portfolio. Okay, so as we learn more and more concepts, we will be applying those concepts to the portfolio. Okay, so by the end of the boot camp or somewhere in the mid of the boot camp, you will have a decent looking portfolio, and we will be adding our projects over here as well in this portfolio. Okay, so whatever you're learning, you have something that you can showcase using this portfolio. I'll even show you how to host your portfolio and make it available publicly. Okay, so I hope you guys are excited about your homework from day one. and we'll be building this throughout the rest of this course. Okay, are you guys excited? Let me know in the chat. Okay, and apart from this, based on what I have taught you guys today, we are launching a new part within Devsnest, which will have some questions, multiple choice questions, or uh, some questions basically which will test your knowledge. More about this will be available in the Discord. So that's it for today's session. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And we'll be learning quite a lot of new things. And yeah, that's it. Okay, see you. And I'll meet you now in Mahasabha VC within Discord. All right, bye bye. Wherever you are, rest well or have the rest of your day. Have a happy rest of your day. Okay, see you.